No, this is very new.
Did the role inspire? You're not going Austin Butler on us though, right? You're going to just stay in 70s role forever.
He can talk however the he wants to talk. Everybody leave him alone. He's a great, talented man. Having said that, I did feel like for a while I kept that mustache around, and I was like, "This is my Austin Butler."
Hello and welcome back to the Pop-Up with Paul and Friends. I'm glad that you're my friend and you're here to listen, to watch. However you're here, I appreciate you. I want to be your friend if we're not real friends. So hit me up, DM me, review, subscribe. Guys, I'm here every week doing this show, and I'm grateful to continually do a podcast in this world now because I'm an interviewer. I get to talk with cool people, and this is a show that means a lot to me because this is my safe space, this little garage that we've created into a little vibe. I've had so much fun. Before we get into our guest for this week, I just want to share. I took my daughter to see Mario Brothers this week, okay? I just want to get this off my chest because I have talked about this before. I thought the movie was entertaining. I thought it was good. Before I saw the movie, I had a little bit of a personal beef and vendetta with the fact that Chris Pratt is playing the most beloved Italian character in history, and he's not Italian. Chris Pratt's an amazing guy. I've met him. Beautiful guy, fun guy, super smart, hold on, my phone has the Tony Soprano ringtone. That's Tony Soprano's ringtone in The Sopranos. Hey, Carmelo, hold on, I'm doing my podcast. Hey, Carmelo, I don't really do Tony Soprano that well. I don't think I sound like him at all. Should I stop doing this? Hey, Carmelo? What? Okay. I don't think I should do the Tony Soprano anymore, is what I just came to. Speaking of Italian characters, he's the most beloved non-animated Italian character. So much I have his ringtone, favorite show of all time. Am I cliche Italian? Maybe a little bit, okay? I love Italian things, but I also think a lot of what we've done with pop culture in TV and movies is great. Obviously, the mafia movies, everything, blah, blah, blah. But the whole movie, non-Italian Chris Pratt's going, Mamma mia, oh, it's a me, a Mario, oh. And then they say, oh, they didn't do the Italian, it's a different thing. Mamma mia, oh, Papa, Luigi. You're doing our accent, bro. I'm fine with them doing our accent. I'm not offended by it. I'm offended that no one is offended. That's what I'm saying. People are offended about this topic except when it comes to people from the boot. Okay? I think Sebastian Maniscalco, who plays a little supporting role, should have been Mario. I'll say that. I liked his voice in it. He sounds very much like how you think Mario might sound if he talked. He sounds a lot like this. Okay, maybe he could have done it. This intro is the most obnoxious I've done in a while. Between this and the Tony Soprano, I got to stop doing impressions. I'm going to get to our guest. He was just on a segment live on NBC with me here in the podcast studio. And I said, you know what? Why don't you stick around? He's been on so many cool things. He's currently on Peacock's Mrs. Davis, which is an incredible, trippy show, which we'll get into. You've also seen him in shows like Limitless, The Right Stuff, Dope Sick. This guy's everywhere. And he's on billboards. And he's also now here in the podcast studio. Put your hands together for Jake McDorman.
You're the only one clapping.
Yeah, it's how it always goes. We had a lot of applause. Woo!
You going to add applause in post?
I can if you want.
Please add raucous applause in
Give
post.
Jake some applause right now.
Oh my God, so much applause. I can barely hear myself think. It's so much.
We just AI'd that. We did added some
great.
AI applause. The one thing I'm trying with this is I am new, but it looks and sounds really pro. So at the very least, we're like, oh, he's doing something.
You come in with the production value.
It's come in that way where people go, we love the show. We love what you're doing. I'm like, I'd like the back end and the sponsors to think that way, but no, we're getting there.
I'll tell you what, it's also the same for actors too, because so much now is not in an audition room; it's all self tape. We still call it self tape, even though no one uses videotape. But just it's up to you to make your own audition on either your iPhone or Can or 5D. I mean, it is what it is. It's the same where I did a press junket that's all satellite or on your computer now. I feel like COVID, this is the world we're in, but it's a good skill to have, and to have that production quality is just as important for your auditions too.
Yeah, but you guys had to learn a whole new skill, which is unfair to your art form, just like it's unfair for me to be across a screen asking someone questions. I love the work though. I love getting paid to be remote.
Yeah, right.
I miss
It's got to be weird.
being with people.
So you were listening to the live, like to what they were saying in the studio on television in your ear.
Yes, but I also I've done so many Zoom interviews that specifically when I built the studio, like people have been like, "We'll come on Zoom," and I've X'd it out because I've done it so much. But the problem with your business is they're saving money.
Right.
They're not going to make you come in anymore.
Right.
But the magic of auditioning is being in the room.
I think that's true. I wonder if what I think would happen now that there's not kind of the COVID health crisis element of it, and it is just kind of saving money on these pre-reads, that if it gets down to the wire, like if they get it down to you and say 5 other actors and they need to see your chemistry, I hope those would still be done in a room.
Yeah, I think you need real human chemistry, man. But yeah.
I know people that have done chemistry reads on Zoom, and that sounds terrible.
That's tough. That's like co-writing a song on Zoom, or even for me.
Yeah.
I interview everybody with my job, but like I can see the glass go over people's eyes on Zoom.
Yeah.
Because I don't get to have, not that I do much more in the room, but I just feel like I'm another dumb-looking talking head.
I know what you mean.
On Zoom?
Yeah.
Whereas I'd rather be a dumb-looking talking head in
person. Yeah, because then you'll have to reserve your judgment because they're right in front of you.
I want to be judged in person by you. I don't want to be this judged on Zoom.
The auditions in general are strange things.
It's a weird social experiment, and a lot of people don't give you guys credit, what you go through and the amount of no's. And I know from this side of it, the amount of no's and the amount of just like soul crushing, like sizing up that happens in auditions. It's tough.
You know what? I listened to some interview a long time ago with Bryan Cranston that really shifted my perspective on auditions, because you can certainly look at it as you're going to get such a fraction of the ones you go out for. It's usually going to be a no. And if you look at it like rejection, it can be, disheartening and discouraging and all that. But Bryan Cranston, I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but he said something about if you start looking at auditions as opportunities to work, so eliminate the result out of kind of the process. Don't worry about whether you're going to get it or not, because that can come down to something of like, are you physically right for the part? Does your hair color match the person playing your mother or your sister or your brother? So if you just look at those 5 minutes as like an opportunity to work, then you can kind of it never really falls into the connotation of rejection. Because if you do a good job and you don't get it, it's still a win.
Yeah.
You still have made a good impression on everybody that's involved, the casting director, the producer, the director, whoever's, watching your tape. You still do well. And if you consistently do well, the idea is that, that accumulates and snowballs into maybe another job.
That's a great way to look at it. That's a great lesson
way to look at it.
For life. Any experience you show up to, you could look at it negatively and say it didn't help you, but in some way it should help you, right?
I mean, it's the same as shooting. Like, we have this show out, and the doing of it, the process of making this show, or hopefully anything you work on, is kind of where the older I've gotten, the where I derive the joy from, because the result of it is so out of everyone's control.
Right. So you enjoy making the
enjoy
sausage.
Making it. Yeah. That's like all you can really focus on.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, and there's certain jobs where you don't enjoy the making of it either. But like if you do love doing it, like at that point, it's kind of out of your hands. You know what I mean?
Has acting? There was an article just came out, so I'm curious. It just came to my mind. Someone was making fun of actors today versus the heyday of like you make the stuff, but then you guys all have fun. Oh, it was the Succession? They were talking about the guy on Succession who is a recluse and doesn't hang out with the cast.
Okay.
The main guy. Kendall.
Was this the one that the New Yorker piece came out?
Yeah, but someone had talked about how some older. Now I'm blanking the reference, but it might have been like an older, maybe it was Hugh Grant said something like back in the day we all went out and we had a good time and we it was a good time, we did our craft and we enjoyed it, but then we also like didn't take it as serious enough where like we didn't hang out and have a good time together. Has that changed at all? And you've been doing this for a long time.
No, I mean the older I've gotten, I just don't go out anyway.
No, because you're just more responsible because you're older.
Yeah. So there's a part of it there, but no, I think that's still it kind of also depends on the piece. If you're doing a heavy period drama where the like a movie like the film adaptation of the play Doubt with like Meryl Streep and Philip Seymour Hoffman, like I doubt they were going out getting hammered at bars being like, we should bond.
Yeah.
It's just like the subject matter is so heavy that I'm sure everybody kind of like disperses into their own separate little quadrants and worlds to prepare for the next day. But if it's something fun, like like Mrs. Davis, the show I did, we hung out a good amount. It was,
you can tell with the show that your guys' chemistry is incredible. So I
love Betty Gilpin. She's just the best.
But you can sense you guys respect and like kind of love each other in the series, and obviously you're acting, but there's something about that energy that like you could see.
Yeah,
you could tell.
Well, and I think it's important. This is why it seems like it would be so difficult to do a chemistry read, which is something that when it gets down to like 3 or 4 people for each role, and the chemistry of these characters is important for the success of the story, to actually get those people in a room, because it can't all be acting and pretend.
Right.
Like you should have a part of you that falls in love with a part of someone else to make that work,
Yeah, it's funny, chemistry reads for acting, but like I think we all do chemistry reads in life to figure out who we want to keep around, who we want to work with. It's like it's just a natural social thing we do. Right?
Yeah, and if that was all on Zoom, you'd never hang out with anybody.
No, we'd be done.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here in person, man. I just hijacked Jake from basically from an NBC interview where he was like, I'm a professional Peacock actor. I'm going to go on this NBC show. And then I was like,
professional Peacock actor.
And then I said, hey, the door's locked in my podcast studio, and now he's on the podcast. I appreciate you being here, man.
These are the terms of my release. Yes.
Yeah. I was like, yeah. No, it's cool to have you here. And speaking of chemistry, I feel like you walk in the house, I immediately feel like you're one of the fellas. In a cool
man.
way.
Well, that's testament to you in this place, though. Like we were saying earlier before we started the NBC interview. Sometimes when you go to a studio and you've got 1,000 people rushing around stressed about to go live, it can have just a chaotic kind of frenetic energy. So even walking in, you can't see the rest of this place, but the rest of this place is really, really cool.
This is the first time I've done like live television, and then I've like had a debrief. So was that okay for you, the live NBC hit?
Yeah, it's just fast.
It was just fast.
Yeah,
okay.
You never know, because there's like so many different like threads you can pull on, especially with Mrs. Davis. It's such an acid trip of a show that you can go down a rabbit hole explaining like the minutia of one detail on that show that wouldn't be conducive to a 3-minute thing.
Yeah.
So it was fine. It was good. Was it good? Was it good?
You were great.
Okay.
It was amazing. You spoke really well, man. The show trips me out, and it is a good topic of conversation for obviously the plot line of the show, but the world we're in now with ChatGPT. For everybody who hasn't seen the show, which I implore you to go watch Mrs. Davis. It's so trippy. I can't wait to finish this season. You're so great in it.
Thanks, man.
But tell people quickly with the Mrs. Davis concept, because I want to talk a little bit about AI with you more.
Yeah. So this is, again, this will be a little easier now that we don't have a time constraint, but trying to squeeze into the what's Mrs. Davis about in like 15 seconds?
I know. I actually was mad at myself in the moment. I was like,
no.
It's like
it's part of the charm of the show. I hope it's part of the charm of the show that it's not, it's like I've even seen people on Twitter, because I kind of, trawl Twitter to be like, do people like this show? What are they saying? What's the scuttlebutt? And it's really funny to see people go through the same struggle that I had while we were filming it, and my friends would ask, like, so what's the show about? And I'd like go on and on and on and on and trying to explain this. Oh, it's the Holy Grail, and then there's a nun, but there's evil AI, and it's kind of in the future, and we're going after the Holy Grail, and I'm a cowboy, and we go to Scotland. Like, it just sounds like you're describing a dream or an acid trip.
You sound on
crazy.
Drugs.
Yeah, you
when
sound
you're describing
crazy.
it.
And so I think that's part of the charm of the show, is that it does have so many things hurled at you at once that putting it into like, a nice soundbite is really, it's the challenge. I'll probably get it down the second we're done.
Yeah. Right.
But just as an overview of it, it's a comedy drama that takes place in a world that's, a little bit further in the future. And a heightened reality where there's this ubiquitous artificial intelligence that has kind of taken over everything and claims to have solved world hunger. It claims to have solved all the wars in the world through this incentive structure where it implores its users, which is just about everybody, to do good deeds in order to get your wings. And your wings are kind of like, I guess, our show's version of a blue check mark, where you get like respect and all this stuff. But there's a faction of people where my character comes in and Betty's character comes in that thinks it's up to more nefarious things than just all that.
There's a comparison. I don't know if anybody's made to you yet, but this is a compliment. But you give me Han Solo vibes in this show a little bit.
Oh, cool, man.
Did you think that?
I honestly think that was even in the script because it
was
when you get to so you have the first episode where Wiley, my character's introduced. And his entrance is very much a cool guy entrance.
Dude, you're in slow-mo.
Motorcycle
with a mustache. You're killing it.
But I mean, as even like moments later when they get into the hatch scene under the giant rock, just the dynamic of these two being exes. She's able to kind of shoot holes in that theory of him being a cool guy pretty fast, making fun of his mustache and what are you wearing? Where the hell have you been? And yada, yada, yada. And that only kind of snowballs as the episodes go on and on. You realize that this is clearly how he'd love his ex to perceive him, that he's this put together like leader of a resistance kind of Han Solo anti-hero kind of guy. And really he's just a fucking nerd.
Right. Of course.
So it's a fun dynamic to play for sure. And that you had brought that up. That was another one of those threads that I wish I could have pulled on, but it's way too long and convoluted of a story for like a quick live interview. But in the first episode, in that scene that we're talking about under that giant rock with the light clicking on and off, the team behind Mrs. Davis, this includes Tara and Damon, who co-created it, our director of the pilot, Owen Harris, and then just everybody in every department on this show. They were so collaborative and felt like all your ideas were welcome. And that light clicking was a great example of that. I've never really had this happen on a show before. So speaking about having to make self-tapes and no longer going in rooms for auditions, I was in Atlanta working on another show when I got the audition for Mrs. Davis, and right away, just with Damon's name on it and the kind of general synopsis of it, you knew it was going to be weird. You knew it was going to be kind of a special thing. And I had nowhere in the apartment I was staying in that would be conducive to making a good self-tape. Had these giant windows. It was like a studio loft kind of situation, so light pouring in. The only place I could do audition tapes while I was in Atlanta at that place was in this like utility closet, which I was like, I guess this works because the scene takes place in this rock, like under a fake rock bunker. So I was like, maybe this is cool. So I like crammed myself into this utility closet with my camera and my ring light. And in that scene, we're hiding from these German guys who are pursuing us. I know our show's an acid trip. And we're kind of keeping our voices down. And every once in a while in the conversation, we'll kind of get cut off by being like, shh, and like looking to see if they're coming. So just to kind of add to that in the audition tape, I had my little remote control to control my ring light on and off. So like, I would turn it on and do some of the scene and hear something and turn it off and turn it back on. It wasn't in the script. It was just a bit that was fun to do for the audition. And cut to like months later when we're getting ready to shoot the first episode, I went to lunch with our director, Owen, and Betty, and he was like, we actually had the electrical department wire a light with a string so that you can do that same bit.
That's great.
So it just felt, it was it's just really encouraging. Because, when you're part of a machine as big as Mrs. Davis, it's Warner Brothers, it's NBC, Peacock, Damon Lindelof and Betty, like all these people and money and expectation around it. The fact that you feel already you're walking into a place that appreciates just an idea you had
choices,
to get yourself the role, not anything you'd think would make it into on set, was just such a vote of confidence and cool. And that persisted. Like they would encourage, Betty is full of things like that made it into the show.
That's amazing. Well, I think it should be a collaboration too. Like I hear horror stories about like, directors yelling and only wanting you to stay on book or do exactly what I think you guys bring so much to it by making it your own, obviously, and making some risky choices or whatever it might be.
Yeah, dude.
It's honestly the best way to work. And I think I have to remind myself, and we all do in the creative field, it's like when you can show up to work and have fun with the work and the team of people, and sometimes you can get negative on projects and stuff.
Totally.
If it's fun, if you lead with fun, you're going to make something good.
I
That's
agree.
The way I see it.
I agree. And I think that's true. It was especially conducive for something like this because it is, genre bending, and there is so much comedy to it and drama. It kind of like oscillates between 5 different genres. But I think that's true for even something that's like a drama. Like it doesn't have to be like fun, the connotative meaning of fun, like you're having a whoopee cushion go off in a crying scene, but like you still showing up with like a collaborative, positive energy. I sound like a hippie right now, but
it's attitude is what you're
it
describing.
is. It is.
Right attitude.
It's like a safe space. I'm sure there's artists out there that maybe thrive on just living in it and carrying that a kind of weight to it, or making a set feel like a kind of a dangerous place. But I find that anything I work on where the attitude is, appreciation and collaborative, even in a heavier drama, it gets better work out of people.
Well, I sense that from you, man. I just met you. Obviously, we're doing this now, but you got great energy. And also, I've been around Hollywood for a while. You don't strike me as like, I mean, maybe this is a cliche to say like Hollywood actor, but you're from... I know you're from Texas. I know you've been doing this for a long time, but you got a down to earth energy. You also kind of look like you're in a band in the '70s. You look like you got a good vibe.
Oh, we didn't talk about my mustache.
You don't have a mustache
away.
now, though, which I'm upset about. You have a great stash in the show.
You should have seen. I mean, if that really slammed home the '70s. You
got that '70s vibe though. Have you always been that way though?
No. This is very new.
Did the role inspire? You're not going Austin Butler on us though, right? You're going to just stay in. The 70s role forever?
I was considering using that as an example, but I'm going to put a disclaimer first. I think Austin Butler is a genius.
He did great.
He was so good in as Elvis. I think he's going to be great in everything he does.
He did great, but he's not Elvis in life. That's all. That's my point.
I understand. Still, disclaimer is not over. I also say he can talk however the fuck he wants to talk.
That's true.
Everybody leave him the fuck alone. He's a great, talented man. Having said that, I did feel like for a while I kept that mustache around, and I was like, "This is my Austin Butler." I was like, now I have no reason other than like I worked on something for a long time that I really enjoyed working on, and I feel an affinity for the look that came out of that.
But dude, you should.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah.
It's a celebration.
This is what I mean. Same for Austin Butler.
I know,
like,
he's just in a vibe.
Yeah. He's fucking crushing it.
He did the role so long, and also for your jobs, I can't imagine. I mean, like I can relate in some ways. Sometimes I do a mustache actually too.
Yeah.
And you just you have a look. You feel confident. You feel good. You were that guy for so. How long did you make the show? I'm sure it was a while.
6 months or something.
Yeah, you're sitting in that for a while. I'm not against it.
Yeah.
I'm actually pro you keeping the stash. So
I know we should have had a proper burial for it when I shaved it off.
Yeah, it'll come back. I love it, man. You look great.
Thanks, man. It was fun.
I do want to know, so because you've had some major roles in your career, and you've been doing this for a long time. You said you moved to LA 20 years ago, right? So
20 years ago, as of this year. Yeah.
Happy anniversary! It's
Thanks.
Worked out.
Still doing it.
Still doing it. I mean, I think it's so cool meeting people like you. And we talked about this a little bit before, but like leaving a smaller town. What town are you from in Texas?
Dallas, but like suburb of Dallas,
okay.
Richardson, Texas.
Near a bigger city, but still, I'm putting you in like, population was 17. No, but that's because I'm from Jersey, and we just think Texas is a giant abyss of land.
It is a giant abyss of land.
But I do think it's cool meeting you and seeing so many people come out here with the hopes and dreams of the things you've been able to do. So has it kind of hit you and felt rewarding, or you just focus on the work because a lot of your dreams seem to be coming true in that sense? You're on a big show right now. You've been on massive shows. Yeah. You're a great actor. But
Thanks.
You came out at 16 to do this.
Right.
Looking back now, does it kind of feel like, are you just, in a way, I can describe me as being jaded in show business a little bit from doing this for so long.
Uh-huh.
So in a way, is it just like you're doing the work, or do you kind of hit you sometimes that the kid from Texas
I think
is
there's
on billboards?
Yeah. I mean, there's.
Fuck yeah.
You're always excited about.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, you can't get so jaded or cynical that doesn't phase you at all.
Yeah.
So and my mom wouldn't let that happen. She's always excited when she sees me on a billboard. But yeah, I mean, it's also crazy to see how. In 20 years ago, being 16 when I started, just how much your idea of what acting is and what your kind of idea of success with acting evolves into. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of parts, like I don't even think it's really getting jaded as much. That's part of it, I'm sure, after doing it for so long. But I kind of think there's a lot of the like idealized version of what I thought I was doing when I was 16 probably needed to die.
Okay.
Like, like I think there's hopefully a natural progression of evolution where it does become a lot less the billboards, and like we were talking about this. I don't remember if we were talking about this once we were rolling or before, but divorcing yourself from the result of something.
Yes.
Because I think there's just no sustainability. Like if you're making your decisions, this is kind of what I've learned the older I've gotten. If you're making your decisions based on how you think something will, what something will do for you.
Yeah.
Or where it will position you. It's not like those aren't, part of the equation, but it's just so much more about the people I want to work with and the work I want to do to challenge myself.
Right.
And as long as I'm focused on that, you feel like you can get the most mileage out of, the in-between.
I love that. I mean, it's about just having realistic expectations. It's the same for relationships. It's like if you have your expectation where this is going to save my life or it's going to make me happy all the time, whatever it might be. It's make me really famous and rich, or like you say, you can't think that way. You gotta do the work, right?
I just feel like it's that stuff is like I have done this for a long time, and like the cliche is it's peaks and valleys, right? And so having been on versions of peaks and versions of valleys, I find that like they don't really manifest like that as much when you change your thought process like that. So like a peak you don't get hyped up, or you don't buy into your own hype when you're on a peak, and you also don't fall into despair when you're in a technical valley. Like, this show has got a lot of really great support behind it. It's got, a lot of great cast and just all the makings of something that, would put you on a proverbial peak for a while.
Sure.
But what I was doing before this was working on other things that I really, really loved and cared about. I didn't think I was in a valley. Like,
right.
Who cares?
I like the way you say it too, because we do get in our own heads a lot of the time with big things or small things. We inflate things.
Totally.
And then we're let down, like you said.
Yeah, it's all temporary. I mean, all of it's temporary. The only thing that isn't is like, if you have this kind of skill that you just want to work on getting it better. And like coming out here when I was 16, I was probably good enough at it to start to do it professionally.
Yeah.
But I've gotten better at it and learned about what about it I think is good, or what about it I think is amateur, and just, started to move into work that as I get older, I think I can probably safely say I'm more proud of by doing it. It had nothing to do with if it lasted a season or 2 seasons, or if people invited you on a podcast, no offense.
Hey.
Or whatever, like it's
I technically stole you for this one, just for the record.
It's true. This is a hostage video, actually.
Well, that's I love your perspective, man. It's inspiring to hear, because I do think this business can make you think otherwise.
Easily. So, it actively tries to.
There's this idea, and I think for people who aren't in show business don't always feel this, but it's like the it thing, staying hot. But the industry tells you these things. Oh, you got to take this thing.
Yeah.
This is going to be big for you.
Right.
This is like the language of show business.
Right.
Should I go do that thing? I don't believe in the work. Like, that person does it.
Yes.
And maybe they'll like me enough to put me in that other thing. All that sucks. I'm so done with that.
Know.
That's why we're sitting in a garage.
Well, I mean, that's it's a beautiful garage.
Thank
by
you.
the
But
way.
I mean, like, that part of the business is tough.
It is. Well, it's also like, I think that's part of. I have such, empathy for people that do right out of the gate get something huge, and don't have the experience yet. Either they're just young, or it's like their first thing.
That's a challenge.
Oh, that's way scarier. Like I'm that goes with the like 20 years kind of doing it, that you get low stakes introductions to kind of some ups and downs, and learn how to figure out who you are apart from that. If I had to come out at 16 and in a year or two gotten on something that just was, massive, that is scary. I mean, I see how you would, at an age like that. attribute so much of your self-worth to it, and then if it dissipated even a little bit, or you noticed that, right, like you weren't striking while the iron was hot, like the pressure to do the next thing and remain at this level of relevancy would completely psychologically just abuse the hell out of you. So I mean, I think that comes with, like, look, it's not wrong all the time as long as it's in perspective. Like, I think it's true if you've got, some things going on, try to keep it going, but don't let that be the driving force.
Yeah, no, I love your take, man. It's also the experience, like you said, and the whole relevancy thing. I think it's so fleeting anyway. Like there's room for everybody to continue to do work that's impactful to them.
Totally.
But it's a chasing, like, unfulfillable.
Chasing cool.
Yeah,
my friend called it that.
That's a great.
My friend called it that. My friend's an influencer and he's great at it.
Which is still a title that I don't know. I know.
Love. I'm not going to name him because I don't even know if he identifies as that. But he's very much involved.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Like in that and it's
it's tough, dude.
I would imagine it's tough. I mean, I'm sure some people just innately are just so. That's their thing. That's their jam. But I know for me, it would just, he's like that. That was a phrase that he used to describe it that I felt like was really
chasing cool.
Cool.
That's really funny.
Sounds terrible. It sounds like waiting in line to get into like a club.
Chasing
the same
cool.
anxiety of like, oh god.
Imagine an influencer club called Chasing Cool, and it's like whoever has the most viral clip from Chasing Cool. Like,
I take it back. We should start Chasing Cool.
Hey, that would do well in LA. People, if you get you invite your friend to Instagram it, it'll blow up.
Yeah, man. It's like Cameo. You want to join Chasing Cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I know it's nuts. That's another thing too. I don't, and I think I'm on that like cusp generation where when I started acting, there was no social media. It certainly wasn't like maybe MySpace or something like that.
Sure.
It certainly wasn't a mechanism or another tool in your toolbox to kind of get yourself some exposure or this and that. And I have it. I feel like I'm always having self-talk about like whether I should get rid of it or not, because I think there's so many examples of actors that do it great, that are great actors and are musicians and also have a real seemingly like just honest version of themselves in a social media landscape that do it really well. But then there's a whole, list of actors I admired that just never had to bother with it. And I think, people that are a little bit older than me that got to a certain level in Hollywood or the music industry or wherever that didn't need it,
You're the last profession, in my view, that doesn't need it, because if you get because the scope of your work can be so large, you don't need it.
Right.
Nothing else is that way. Like comedians, people. Everyone needs to approach the digital audience, but I would argue, like, you got a huge. Everyone sees you on the show,
right?
Everyone sees you in your work,
right?
Until those mediums are on social media,
right?
You're fine.
I don't know, man. Maybe, but like, I honestly, like, if I talk to, I'm 36, and if somebody who was 16, which is how old I was when I started, was like, is it important for me to put my reel on Instagram or TikTok or get my, I don't know what the answer it is. Absolutely. So
for them starting, it's weird, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I don't mean to act like some kind of authority that knows the right answer, because I'm not. I think, where I'm at with it, I'm at least at this moment glad that I've got enough work under my belt that hopefully it's not a necessity because I'm bad at it. It's not even like, I don't need it, I'm better than it. Oh no, I'm just not good at it. It's not an innate response for me to like share and do stuff like that. But if I were just starting out, yeah, it very much could be. I don't know.
It's a tool. I look at it as I changed my perspective this year because I'm your age. I'm 35, about to be 36. I felt like I was chasing cool a while as a content creator, as a comedy guy, as an interviewer. Lately, and now I just see it as a tool, and I use it to promote this stuff, to promote clips, and I don't even care about what I get back from it. The ultimate goal for me, I think for people like you, is like you hire out. You just have someone manage it.
Yeah.
You stay relevant on the platform there. If you want to have that type of relevancy or that type of input digitally,
engagement or whatever,
I don't want anything to do with it one day. I want to just have somebody put my work out. People like my work there, and I'm smoking cigars. And
that's
my new goal.
I have a really good friend, one of my closest friends, who is on a really big show. He's just about to. He's actually starting to do music now, and part of the he never had social media, and clearly didn't need it to work. And now, as part of the agreement for embarking on this kind of music career. Part of the agreement, I think, from the record label was like, okay, you got to have some kind of social media presence, and he did exactly what you're talking about, where he was like, I know myself, if I get even remotely interested in what people are talking about, what people are thinking, I'll go down a spiral. So I've got to hire out. So he has it, but it's not him.
Well, for very famous people too, and people with big numbers, I do think that side of it can be really scary for your mental health, because. It's a long story I won't get into here because I'm going to let you go in a minute, but I got canceled by the cycling community when I first moved to LA.
The cycling community? You got canceled by the cycling community.
I love it. I'm bringing this up to you. You ride bikes around here? Because I might have yelled at you in Laurel Canyon a couple of months ago. But anyway.
Like cycling.
Like not vroom vroom, but bring bring.
Yeah.
Anyway, in spandex.
Hashtag bring bring.
Bring bring.
Yeah,
but anyway. I don't have a massive following, but I felt the hate of a community. A community, by the way, that should not be considered.
Why did they cancel you? Are we not getting into this?
They tried to cancel me.
Okay.
You can Google my name, and you can Google cyclist, and you can see an article that comes up with my goofy face about spewing hate or whatever they wanted to say. Bring. I actually want to invite them in here one day and see, if we have a wrench in here to take their wheels off, they can't get out of here. But
yeah.
But my point about that is I've been on the side of the internet. And this is me at a small scale, hearing a couple hundred people, maybe. It was a community that wanted me dead. By the way, it's funny because they have a very luxurious hobby and they can afford to be mad about it. Like, they're not a Dish and franchise community. They're like a rich white guy hobby. But anyway, I still don't understand that this happened, but I felt that side of the internet on a very small scale.
Right.
So to your buddy and people of your nature, it's like, I can't imagine the other side of
You're right. If it were like the whole internet.
Imagine the whole internet is mad at something you said or did, and you really can't escape it. So that's why it can be very unhealthy.
Yeah, and honestly, like, there is a part of me that does feel like, there's so many people on these platforms, so many actors that like, and like, more power to people who are compelled to, make activism part of their what they do. I just know that I'm just kind of sick of hearing from so many people.
Well, that's the thing of our generation. Like, everyone has a voice to talk about everything, and that's why the world is so different now.
A little bit, and I have an insecurity about, like, I don't know if I want to be another voice right now.
What you have, which a lot of people don't have, is you are cool, and your actors still have the mystique, like the Steve McQueens of the world, the Paul Newman style. Mm-hmm. You have that with your roles and your vibe. You can escape that. I'm not gonna say you're above it because you don't want to say that, but there's a cool factor to being not as good at it, like you're describing, that actually works in your favor, I think.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because you're like, here's my work. I think it's a good level where you're at. I do think actors and movie stars and TV stars are kind of the last dying breed where, like, it's almost like, they're like, I tag them when I do interviews. I'm like, they're not on here. I got to hashtag them. You're talked about. Your show's talked about.
Right.
But you don't have to be it's kind of, there's a coolness to that.
I mean, Betty Gilpin is a great example. She's the lead of our show. She's not on social media.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you go in a second, but because I did this live.
Oh, this is the Chat GPT.
We've been talking about Chat GPT all day with you. Your show has an AI character. Mm-hmm. It's based in the future realm that feels like 2023, your show. So people know.
Right.
People are all talking to AirPod, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mrs. Davis.
Mrs. Davis is the character. And I haven't met her yet. I don't know if we meet her because I only saw episode 1, but I'm going to continue watching.
All your questions will be answered by the end also.
Perfect. But what freaks me out about the show is, you have people checking in. One thing that freaked me out is the AI character basically is like, I solve all your problems. Anything you want and need, I have. So that was like a little, like, almost religion. Like, it was like, there's like this weird, like, solve to AI, which I think we're getting to now. Like, we are getting there.
Yeah. I was telling you that I used it just to help me, like, install something like a TV at my house. And it was like having a way overqualified assistant.
Exactly.
Well, that as long as it stays in the assistant lane, which probably it won't.
Well, writers, different jobs, like you could do, like right now, I'm interviewing you on the podcast. Tell me a funny question for Jake McDorman. Here we
Did you
go.
say funny question? Is
Yes.
that what you said? Okay.
Yeah, because I don't want it to just
I'm so curious what it's going to think.
see
is
what
funny.
it spits out. This is now we're using AI on Jake because he's
God.
in Mrs. Davis. We're using AI now. If you could have any superpower, but it had to be completely useless in any practical situation, what would it be? See?
Not a bad question.
Better question than what I just asked the past half hour.
It has to be completely useless. Good Lord. I don't know. See, any superpower that I think of isn't useless. Like I was going to say that I could talk to animals like Dr. Dolittle. I'm like, that's pretty useful.
That would help a lot of things.
What superpower? I don't know,
let's
make
see,
like pasta come out of my fingertips or something?
Nope, that's very useful for me. I'm Italian.
Everything's
I would love
useful.
that. Let's see. Mine, a superpower that is completely useless. It's hard because you think superpower, you want to help people, right?
It's called a power. It can't inherently be a power if it's useless, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say like stopping men's hair from falling out, but that's very
so useful
for a lot of men.
That's so useful.
Yeah.
Ask ChatGPT. ask it the same question. I'm curious what AI would say. Be like,
You know what? We're gonna use AI against itself.
answer a question with a question.
If you had a useless superpower, what would it be? I'm sorry, but as an AI language model, I don't have personal preferences or superpowers. Wow, what a cop-out, AI.
It's a total cop-out.
You can't even answer the question you made me ask him.
Come
This is
on.
why, as much as I love the show and the plot line in the show, I'm scared by it here sometimes, and it just turned it on me.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Yeah, by the end of these 8 episodes, the reveal, which, we like I said, there's a lot of questions that get asked on the kind of ramp up to mid-season, and by the time we get to the end, there's a lot of answers for it, especially about like where Mrs. Davis comes from.
I love it. Well, you're answering questions with your work. You answer some questions here, man. Thank you for hanging out with me.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you for letting me keep you longer.
Yeah, of
and
course.
using my TV job to get a really nice guest on the podcast.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah, I love doing podcasts. Very cool.
Dude, thanks for being here. Great to meet you. Guys, thanks for being here again. We'll see you next week. We're here every week. Make sure you check out Mrs. Davis and Jake in the show. It's incredible, and everything he's doing. And follow him on social media while he still has it.
Oh, God. Thanks, man.
All right, see you guys.